look up from Earth into the blue sky. Above every continent, above every city, they fly. Watched by the eyes of all the world's people is a flying creature whose life is woven into human history. They are pigeons. Among the 9,000 species of birds, they alone have truly changed our lives. To all the world's major religions, they are a symbol of peace. But this is only a small part of their legacy. We treasure them as our oldest feathered friend, living with man since before recorded history. Pigeons descended from ancient birds, but we have selectively bred them into 1,000 varieties of color, feather, and form. They are loved equally by common people and kings, from the Queen of England to the beloved Sun Qingling and the talented Mi Longfeng. They are among the strongest flyers in the animal kingdom, with an innate ability to find their way home with vital messages in peace and in war. The stories of their courage are legendary. Pigeons have carried messages for armies in spite of mortal wounds. Today they compete as athletes, trained to race home from great distances against tens of thousands of competitors. Some fly wild in our greatest cities. Others live as honored guests in palatial breeding houses, where champions beget champions. They are acrobats, bred to perform miraculous aerial maneuvers in flight, or trained to land precisely on their master's call. They serve as couriers and artists, carrying film back for a company from the remote mountains of America, or carrying musical whistles in the skies above Beijing. They have a unique appeal to children, who marvel at their flight to the heavens. Pigeons serve as educators in a tiny school in America, where troubled young people have learned to love and respect this magical flyer. No bird has ever been closer to mankind. No other bird has played a greater part in our history. And no bird better symbolizes the wish of all people on earth for peace. These are the stories of pigeons, the flying friend who shares our blue skies. Coming soon from director Jim Jenner and Beijing Television is a 20-part series of stories on the bird of peace, filmed on 5 continents and told in the words of pigeon experts and bird lovers throughout the world. One world, one people, one bird, one wish. Our hope for peace is symbolized in this bird that shares our blue sky.
Luther Nelson, a man of God in the City of Angels. As a Lutheran minister in California, he spent the bulk of his life caring for a flock of parishioners. His job was to help people, to marry them, to christen their children, and pray for their souls when they died. But fate had another plan for Luther. Dennis Sanders, an English commoner, about to meet his queen. In the pomp and circumstance of a visit of Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth to dedicate a memorial garden to England's war dead, Dennis is about to play a key symbolic role. These men are of Christian faith, but their role in today's society is an ancient one, for they provide the symbolism that has touched human souls since before recorded history. These men live worlds apart, but each has a new mission in life, tied to the wings of the bird of peace. For centuries, the symbol of the white dove has represented purity, love, and fertility. But Christians are not alone in revering them. The white dove serves as an icon to Muslims, to Jews, and Hindus as well. And making these birds a part of modern-day events is not only a connection with our past, it is also becoming a business.
White dove release.
What started out as the hobby of a minister who loved pigeons since childhood is a company called White Dove Release. Luther is a commercial pigeon keeper in America's second largest city.
I began once, a 104-year-old lady was on her deathbed, and she said, I feel like an 18-year-old girl locked up in this old cage. She said, I just want to get out of this cage and fly home to Jesus. And it just sparked in me the thought of my racing pigeons. All they want to do is get out of that carrying case I have them in and fly home. So I just chatting with her, I told her the story about my pigeons, how I take them out in a cage, and she said, that's exactly how I feel. Could you bring those pigeons to my graveside service and tell my family about the talk we just had? She said, I think that'll be so meaningful to them. So I sure enough, I brought a basket of, 12 or 15 pigeons. I handed one to the people and I asked her just to let the dove go, and representing her mother going home to be with the Lord. And she did, and then we let the flock go, and the family was so touched, so impressed. There was just tears all around the crowd. I just thought, what a way to release a loved one, to let them go, to fly home.
Luther Nelson never had a business plan for the bird of peace. His is a story of fate, a calling that led this minister from caring for his flock of human parishioners to another flock. Above him, almost 1,000 pairs of wings soar each day, possibly the largest group of white homing pigeons owned by a single person on earth.
Right now, the normal charges that we have for the birds ranges from $250 for a wedding. Weddings are a lot more involved, but for funerals, we do 25 birds, $175, 50 birds is $195, 100 birds is $250. My sons have helped build the lofts with me, and of course my wife, organizational skills, that's her forte. Somehow brides really appreciate talking to a woman about details. We guys, the details just aren't as important to us.
The release of white homing pigeons is a simple business. You arrive at an event, release the birds, which fly home, and then return home to receive and release the birds again. To a longtime pigeon fancier like Luther Nelson, the raising and training of the birds is simple. To make management easier, Luther keeps the birds in sections that can be closed to catch individual birds. To make feeding simple, he stores grain in a large hopper to measure the daily feed. And when it's time to load a large number of birds for a training flight or an event, he's trained the birds to walk into the large containers. When the pigeons are a month old, they start to fly around their home loft. As they mature, Luther and his son routinely release them from a mile or two away, so they learn to come home quickly. By the time they're 4 months old, they're ready to join the teams that go to work.
When we began this 13 years ago, it was just my church members. As the word began to spread, we just noticed that every year we would increase the number of jobs from anywhere from 30% to one year it was 100% increase. And so every year, 13 years in a row, there's been just a dramatic increase of the number of jobs, just because the need continues to grow.
For that price, they come in brand new white disposable boxes. You can release them yourself and then just dispose of the boxes following the wedding.
The biggest business challenge for the Nelsons is not getting the pigeons to come home. It's getting the pigeons to the events on time across the sprawling city of Los Angeles, fighting some of the worst traffic in the United States.
There are just too many days a year where the birds have to do 2 jobs a day. They don't mind it. It's not overtaxing on them. It's overtaxing on me.
A continent away, Dennis Sanders is another pigeon lover who has made white birds a part of his life. But for this Englishman, these symbolic releases are not as much a profession as they are a promise. Dennis vowed to begin exhibiting these birds when he was lying in a hospital bed, recovering from an almost fatal heart attack.
And I thought to myself, what have I done with my life? not much. If I get over this heart attack, what I intend to do is something good for others. Prior to my heart attack, I could have died and no one knew who Dennis Sanders was.
For Dennis, the white birds are a hobby, and over the years he's become the person called on to perform at many national events. The birds may not have brought him fortune, but they have certainly brought him fame.
I have been called the Robin Hood of the sport because I do charge for weddings and I never charge for funerals or going to schools or doing special liberations.
To commemorate the 50th year of Queen Elizabeth's reign, Her Majesty was asked to dedicate a local war memorial. For Dennis, it was a nervous and special moment. Not only would he supervise the release, he was also able to present the Queen with a pair of his white birds to add to her own flock of homing pigeons.
My dream has come true, all because of pigeons. And to someone up there who's looking after me.
For Germans, the birds are an important symbol as well. Here, pigeon fancier Manfred Schatz and his wife Frieda maintain a small flock of white pigeons and enjoy letting them go at local weddings on the weekends.
Weiße Tauben auf Hochzeiten ist ein uralter Brauch in Deutschland mit sehr, sehr langer Tradition. Und symbolisch sollen die Tauben die Brautleute des Brautpaar begleiten. Es ist wunderschön.
The white dove can be found in ancient paintings, but ceremonial releases of white birds is a modern phenomena. The reason is a matter of genetics. The family Columbidae, pigeons and doves, includes hundreds of varieties. This tiny white dove's ancestors were gray birds. Humans bred them until they produced a pure white specimen. But there's one small problem. This is a caged bird, a pet. Released in the wild, it doesn't know how to survive. When a ceremony calls for a white dove to be released, people sometimes look to any white dove to fill the role, and this misconception can have humorous or tragic consequences. An Easter prayer by His Eminence Pope Paul ended with the release of white doves. But the pontiff himself became the landing site for a frightened bird that didn't know it was supposed to fly away. The opening of the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea included white doves that also didn't know how to fly away. The result was seen live by millions of horrified viewers around the world who saw confused birds fly into the Olympic flame. The people who chose these birds didn't understand that there are white doves, and then there are white doves. And in the world of birds, there's only one creature equal to the task of being a symbol of God's messenger on earth. Homing pigeons have an innate ability to leave the ground, circle to find their bearings, and then head home from hundreds of miles away. The only problem was their natural color. They're called columbolivia, meaning a dove with the color of lead. The classic gray and black birds weren't very symbolic, but in the 1950s they were selectively bred until birds were produced with pure white feathers. One of America's greatest entrepreneurs, Walt Disney, first used the birds for releases at Disneyland in Los Angeles. Later, an even bigger flock of birds were put to work at Disney World in Florida, managed for many years by expert pigeon handler Don Brumfield. The birds eagerly loaded themselves into shipping baskets, and millions of visitors saw them fly during shows and the evening lowering of the flag. Brumfield's retirement in 2002 and the growing problem of wild hawks catching the birds led the company to end its once famous pigeon program. By the 1990s, the popularity of white dove releases exploded in many parts of the world, caused in large part by the televised images of the birds at funerals of famous people, like the American musical Leah, or the memorial for students killed at the Columbine Massacre in Colorado. The sight of a flying white dove still moves us as in ancient times. The white birds are always a crowd pleaser. Whether it's in North America, England, or Europe, the reaction of the audience is always stirring. Their majestic symbolism is one of the reasons the birds are growing in popularity around the world. Whether their flocks are large or small, all of these pigeon people have one key thing in common. They can never get over how much joy the general public seems to gain from seeing these white birds take to the sky.
I've been asked to liberate birds at funerals, and when the bird is liberated, it's like as if it's the person within the bird flying up to heaven.
1,000 people were at the graveside. 32-year-old, well-loved woman. The husband came up to me afterwards. He said, "Luther, you'll never know what happened when I let that bird go. Just something happened in me and I was able to let her go to be with the Lord."
Was auch sehr, sehr schön ist für mich, wenn ich die vielen Leute sehe und die alle sehr, sehr glücklich sind. Und das ist eigentlich unbeschreiblich.
Whether Muslim, Buddhist, Jewish, or Christian, the emotion of seeing birds ascend into the sky is strong with all audiences. Most don't realize they are witnessing an ancient ritual that has become a modern business. And for the people who care for the birds, the spectacle of their release and journey home to enthrall and delight audiences around the world make this a business they enjoy.
My passion is, of course, bringing the Lord into people's lives, and another passion is the pigeons. And I've been able to tie the two together. It's been a real way to get my message, my Christian message, out to the world, as well as my love and passion for pigeons. I love my job.
Manche Braut, die weint, der Bräutigam, der weiß nicht, was auf ihn zukommt, die Kinder, es ist einfach unbeschreiblich schön. Wissen Sie, man schenkt Glück, da ist nur Freude.
Wir nehmen Anteil daran.
Immer wieder Glück, wir beide sind auch sehr glücklich und das ist immer eine Auffrischung, das ist wirklich mit Herzen, nicht nur als Geschäft, das sehen wir wirklich mit Herzen und Liebe.
I think most people now in the world want peace, and the small part I play with these birds, I hope I can promote not only the sport of pigeon racing, but peace all over the world. And if I can do that, I should be a very happy man.
The white rock dove, the living icon of the bird of peace.
If anybody were to say you knew somebody in the remote bush of Alaska with carrier pigeons to send messages and to get communications, they would plumb think you had rocks in your head. But I do, and I enjoy it very, very much. Birds have been an integral part of my childhood and growing up, and I use these homing pigeons for entertainment and for carrying messages. These birds can fly up to 600 miles in a day at 70 miles an hour. And they're awful dependable, and they're awful entertaining on the long, cold winter nights.